Karoline Leavitt unleashes fiery defense as media collides with declassified truths on Russia hoax. The newly declassified intelligence has sent shockwaves through Washington, and one thing is crystal clear: it's irrefutable. That was the message echoed powerfully in the White House press briefing room as Karoline Leavitt and Tulsi Gabbard took center stage, pushing back on a narrative many in the mainstream media have long championed. It began with a question aimed at Gabbard regarding her decision to release bombshell documents that challenged the long-standing claims of Russian collusion. CNN's Kaitlan questioned whether this move was an attempt to regain favor with former President Trump, hinting at a political motive rather than a truth-seeking one. But Gabbard wasn't having it. She firmly corrected Collins, drawing a critical distinction between the Senate Intelligence Committee and the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. That sharp correction set the tone. Gabbard exposed Collins' misunderstanding of fundamental institutional differences and then passed the spotlight to Leavitt, who delivered a devastating rebuttal of the media's role in perpetuating what is now widely considered a political hoax. Leavitt didn't mince words. She reminded the press that Senator Marco Rubio, then acting chair of the Senate Intelligence Committee, released a 2020 statement affirming troubling evidence of Russian meddling, but clarified there was no evidence of Trump-Russia collusion. That distinction, she argued, was twisted by Democrats and mainstream outlets to sell a false narrative that President Trump and his son were secretly colluding with Russia with unflinching precision. Leavitt dismantled that storyline. She slammed the intelligence community's early efforts to manufacture collusion claims, saying they knowingly pushed disinformation that framed Trump and his family as Russian assets. All of these lies were never true, she stated bluntly, taking direct aim at the Steele dossier, a document discredited long ago, but one that dominated headlines and cable news segments for years. Leavitt didn't stop there. She called out media outlets that parroted the Steele dossier as gospel, blaming them for abandoning journalistic standards in favor of partisan hysteria. No fact-checking, no scrutiny, just raw partisan frenzy, she charged, painting the media as not only complicit but central in weaponizing misinformation to delegitimize Trump's presidency. When Collins pushed the claim that Gabbard might have released the declassified materials to curry favor with Trump, Leavitt swiftly struck down the premise. She accused the press of inventing storylines to sow distrust within Trump's cabineton effort. She said that was not only dishonest but doomed to fail. Then came the knockout. Leavitt made it clear that the president maintained full confidence in Gabbard and dismissed any speculation to the contrary. He always has. He continues to, she said. It was a surgical dismantling of a media-driven narrative, leaving no room for interpretation, spin, or retreat. As the room fell quiet, Leavitt delivered one final scorcher: the Obama administration's omission of a December 2016 intelligence briefing that showed Russia had not stolen the election. That document, she said, remained unpublished until last week, and it strongly contradicted the collusion narrative pushed by the Clinton campaign and its allies. They didn't want Trump to see it, Gabbard added, implying that key intelligence was suppressed to protect a politically useful myth. Leavitt then named the figures she holds responsible: James Clapper, Andy McCabe, James Comey, individuals she claimed knowingly misled the public and were later rewarded with media jobs that allowed them to continue spreading disinformation. They knew it was a lie, she said, and yet they kept going. The press briefing reached its crescendo with a firm call for accountability. Leavitt declared that anyone who played a part in advancing the Russian collusion hoax must face consequences, whether through legal action, the ballot box, or public reckoning. She didn't rule out questions about Barack Obama's prosecutability, but left that to the legal system. Still, she made one thing clear: this wasn't politics as usual. This was calculated sabotage. The final stretch of the briefing flashed back to 2016, reminding the country how figures like Hillary Clinton, Tim Kaine, and Adam Schiff declared Trump a Russian agent. It was a lie. They always knew it, Leavitt stated. Schiff's infamous claim that he had more than circumstantial evidence was never substantiated. Yet it drove public opinion and media coverage for years, according to Leavitt. The mainstream media didn't merely fail to question the narrative, they were part of it. They weren't reporting the story. They were advancing the mission: stop Donald Trump from ever returning to power. She accused the press of abandoning objectivity and integrity in favor of political drama, elevating fiction into headline news, refusing to issue retractions once the truth emerged, and pivoting silently to the next scandal as if the previous one never happened. In one of the most searing critiques ever launched from the White House podium, Leavitt accused journalists of not being watchdogs, but operatives fighting not for truth, but for power. And as she wrapped up, she delivered a message, not just to the room, but to the country. The lies are laid bare. The next step is clear: accountability.